start? Okay, cool. So that's 19 and 20. Here's 18. Holy cow. So rule 18, it's mark roundings. Now this is meaty. There are 2 pages, right? 2 total pages. I'm just going to refresh my memoirs here. All right. So rule 18 applies between boats that are rounding the same mark and they're going around the same direction. So if you had a keelboat coming out, you had a keelboat coming over here, and I don't know, you're a Flying Scot and you're coming around this same mark, different direction, that doesn't apply. Right? Verify that, that's true. So it applies between boats that are going to the same mark, rounding in the same direction. All right, so that's rule 18. So we know where it applies. It's got 5 sections. Double check that. 18, I'm going to write 18 over here. Rule 18 point, there's a preamble, which is important. 18.2, 18.3, 18.4, and 18.5. 18.1.
They don't have an 18.5.
It's 18.7.
And I was just testing you.
That's showing that special rule.
That's right. It used to have 5, and I just changed.
That's double secret probation?
So 18.1 has 1, 2, 3, 4 times where in the preamble, I think this is where it says on the starting line. I think no.
Somebody read it to him and help him.
Don't read it to me.
Help him. It's sad watching them struggle. Oh, it's very sad to watch them up there struggling. Oh. Come on, you used to rattle these things off in the beginning, like you knew them like.
I'm getting old, man.
You are
Got a video camera.
You yell 18.7 all the time at me, and there wasn't a .7.
I'm thinking of a little detail that we'll come to. 18.1 talks about 4 examples when 18 doesn't apply. And 2 of them, I can't remember which 2, are really rare and not all that important. And it's not my opinion, it's Dave Perry that says that. So the other 2 are really important. It says 2 examples where Rule 18 does not apply.
Wouldn't it be nice to know what Rule 18 is before you tell what doesn't apply? Have we gone over that?
Rule 18 is, I just said it, but when you're going around mark rounds.
Oh, that's it? Just,
Yeah.
Okay, Rule 18 is going around mark.
And there's lots to it, yeah.
All right.
There's a lot going on here, Jim.
I'll try to keep up short.
And so, you're rounding the same mark, same direction. You know,
I'm with you
that
now.
whole bit.
I'm with you.
So, the situation where it does not apply is on opposite tacks on a beat to windward. So imagine if this is the windward mark, and forget the whole zone business because there's some issues there too, but if you're on opposite tacks on a beat to windward and there's a zone, the zone is defined by a circle with a radius of 3 boat lengths, not to scale. And so on opposite tacks on a beat to windward, there is no Rule 18. And you might be sailing a triangle, and maybe the jibe mark is over here, and you sail down, 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 the wind moves over to the side here, and all of a sudden this guy has to tack, and you have opposite tacks on a beat to windward. There's no mark room situation here. So on opposite tacks on a beat to windward, the classic one would be, what's the classic one, Dave Lawrence? I bet you know.
I don't. That's why I'm here.
Good one. His student has become the master.
You always have a defense if you're on that side of the table. You're like, that's why I'm here. Well, how come you don't know?
I can read it
right here.
That helps though.
Right here.
Nice.
So this is a finishing mark. There's a zone on it. So this is a finishing mark too, surrounded by navigable water. There's zones and there's mark room conversations about these finishing marks. It was the starting that I couldn't find where it says boats approaching the starting line for purposes of starting. There is no mark room at the start, is the point.
That's the preamble part.
Is it the preamble?
Yeah.
Okay, without glasses I couldn't read it really well either. And then the stress of Jim calling me out. So yeah, there's no mark room, no Rule 18 at the start. And it's not just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 at the start. It could be 10 seconds after the gun, and there still is no mark room. So if somebody's trying to, if this is the starting line, if someone's trying to say something about mark room, or maybe here, mark room, there is no mark room when you're approaching the starting marks for purposes of starting. So if someone says mark room at the start, you just need to vigorously laugh.
Just tell them proper course.
Yeah, just avoid them entirely because they're probably going to foul you. But at the finish marks are marks, and a lot of people don't realize that. However, Rule 18.1 specifically talks about on boats on opposite tacks on a beat to windward, this guy is not owed mark room. And I know a guy who's been sailing for 30 plus years that did not know that. Okay? So he was yelling mark room, and I'm yelling starboard, mark room, starboard, starboard. I left my sails and ducked them because it was looking like a bad situation waiting to happen. So this is not that known. People just don't know the rules, I'm telling you, they just don't. So what's my recourse? To allow a collision to occur and win? No. Is to avoid the collision, maybe say protest if I desire to, and know where I am in the regatta. If he's in 13th place and I'm in 3rd, you know, hey, I ain't even saying anything about it because God knows what he'll say in his mind. And so, opposite tacks on beat to windward, there is no mark room. Okay, so that's one of the times where mark room doesn't apply. And the other one I can't think of. Oh, when you're when one boat's coming into a mark and the other one's leaving. So that's the other time. But the other one, the big one, is the opposite tacks on a beat to windward. That's the common one. So that's 18.1. 18.2, in all its glory, and it's lengthy. All it really says, and I want to simplify it because it is simple. I don't want to gloss over it, like, you know, oversimplify it. It is simple. It really is. Put this in a way where it's easy to see.
Which one are we doing?
Here's the leeward mark. 1, 2, 3. Here's your 3 boat length circle. The zone, in other words. And all it says is, we know what Rule 18 applies to boats rounding the same mark, same direction, and one of them is in the zone. I kind of forgot to mention that. If no one's in the zone, 18 hasn't triggered yet. It ain't on. It's going to be on soon, but it's not on yet. So if a boat, as soon as someone penetrates, it doesn't matter which guy. It could be multiple boats, but I'm just going to keep it down to 2 boats for now. All it says is you have to have an inside overlap to be owed mark room. That's really all it comes down to. So to get a reservation at this restaurant, to be owed permission to get around this thing, you have to have been inside overlap. This boat is not overlapped. Let's talk about overlap for a second. In the definition section, it talks about it in great detail. I think it's 3 sentences. You have a transom line on your boat, and overlaps are established. People always ask, is it hull, equipment, personnel? In the case of overlap, well, in the case of a zone, it's hulls, just so you know. In the case of overlap, it's hull and or equipment in proper position. So just so you know, that would be your rudder head sticking out. And this would be this guy's spinnaker, just so you know. You know, it matters.
Wow.
So it's hull or equipment in proper position. So can you blow your chute out and get the overlap? You know, that's not cool. And so let's ignore those little subtleties for a moment and just kind of focus on the hulls. Imagine this transom line with you at all times. I could probably get a nice long stick. Well, anyway, you can imagine that long line. There's your transom line. There's no overlap. If I were turned this way, and there's my transom line, overlapped. So the orientation of your boat, the course of your boat, that transom line goes with you. The line drawn perpendicular to the aftermost portion of your hull or equipment in proper position, some gibberish like that. But this line matters. So if you're overlapped or not overlapped matters. If you're overlapped, and then this composite, this conglomerate of boats, boom, Rule 18 is triggered. And if you read through all the little sections, all it says is, if you're overlapped at the time of of penetration of the zone, then you're owed mark room for the duration of this mark rounding, even if the overlap is subsequently broken. So if you're overlapped and you come moseying into the zone and you're inside overlap, you're owed mark room. If you're not overlapped upon penetration, and notice I didn't talk about tack you're on, I didn't mention that. Ignore these sails for a moment, just kind of ignore them. If you're overlapped and there's penetration, boom, you're owed mark room. The blue boat is owed mark room. He just is. And this guy must give him room to get to the mark and around the mark. So if it's really tight and I have to swing my butt around and I hit, he didn't really give me the room I was owed.
Even though the blue boat wasn't inside that circle?
Correct.
Okay.
So it's just one of them. The 18 applies between boats running the same mark, same direction, and one of them is in the zone. Yeah.
And it's a snapshot right at that 3 boat lengths.
Yes.
Whatever happens after is irrelevant to a degree. I mean, it can break. The inside one could start to fade out, but he still has to give him room if he can catch back up.
Yep. So let's just say this boat has been overlapped. I'll get to a few subtleties of Rule 18.2 in a second, but if you're overlapped, this blue boat, right around here, it's wise, not required, but highly intelligent to say, I'm overlapped, Jim, I'm going to need mark room, I'm going to need mark room in the next few boat lengths.
No, you're not.
And then you're going to say, and then I'm going to say, mark room, Jim.
Okay, mark room.
Now is not the time to start the conversation, right? Don't go to marriage counseling when things are going, when you're throwing plates, right? I always think this is going to be a mess, right? It's going to be a mess.
Absolutely.
Who here has not been in a mess at this mark?
No,
And it's like, why am I here? Why, how did this happen? How did this happen? I could have avoided this. And so, for the record, I love my wife. And so, if I'm overlapped, this guy is overlapped, this is about the time to say it. Maybe this is 3, maybe 4, 5, 6 boat lengths, maybe. What I don't want to do is tell him at 20 boat lengths so that this guy can do something to break the overlap. I want to kind of like, about 6 boat lengths. Hey Chris, we're overlapped, man, I'm going to need mark room. And you're like, oh crap, yeah, you're right there. I didn't even notice you there. So that's how that works. Boom, penetration. This guy's, wow, that's really close. Is he overlapped?
No, he's not overlapped.
Whoa. So, if
Jim's in the red boat, no, there's not an overlap.
Definitely not overlapped.
That's how you draw the line.
well, it's very ambiguous, right?
Well, then again, my rudder makes him overlap.
It kind of looks like he's got a little.
Well, there's a section of 18.2 that says if there's a debate over whether an overlap was established or broken, then assume the prior existing condition exists. So if there was an overlap for 35 boat lengths, 30 boat lengths, 25, 30, and then you broke it at the last second, and it's kind of ambiguous, not sure, but you're overlapped for so long, this guy would be wise, according to the rules, to assume that it's still overlapped. Likewise, if he's catching, and it's kind of like I haven't had an overlap for 35 boat lengths, and it's like, I think I got it, I think I got it. Overlap backroom! Good luck with that. The rule says in there, there's a section there that says, don't pull last minute crap. That's all it says.
Is that verbatim?
It's verbatim.
Well, that's the crap.
SAF is reviewing all that, reviewing it, I wrote comments on it later.
He should rewrite them next year.
Put some addendums to the rules.
Yeah, that would be addenda.
Rules for dummies.
So you have an inside overlap, and then your owed mark room, if at penetration, snapshot.
Snapshot.
Now let's say your owed mark room here, and then all of a sudden this happens. Happens all the time. There's boats right here. It doesn't matter. I'm still owed mark room.
Right.
It says it in the rule.
But you're now behind me, and I'm going to just sail around the mark, and you're not even going to get near me.
So
it's irrelevant.
But what happens? You saw Etchel's video, and then this guy goes.
I got to
He turns and
aware
I
of
go,
that.
oh boy, I am still owed mark room.
Casado.
Once you have a reservation to that table, if you're late for
Yeah.
an 8 o'clock reservation or whatever,
Right.
you still have the table.
Well, that's Joel's fault.
Yeah. So, notice we just talked about mark room. What is mark room? It's basically you're afforded room to the mark. Once at the mark, you can pursue your proper course, which means you're allowed to actually turn. Imagine that. So, it's not 2 millimeters, and that's not enough mark room. Red is not giving this guy mark room. He has to give him enough room so that he can swing his rear end around and round the mark once he gets to it. And I'm not gonna get into the minutia because it's unimportant. And what'll happen if you don't give it, you're hosing both of you. Because once boats are glued together, this guy can't turn, and you end up doing this awful big turn, and all these boats go, they make that exact sound. And so, yeah.
The Doppler effect.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all you gotta do is have an overlap, establish it a little on the early side. I won't get too tactical about this. If you have an overlap upon penetration, great. If you don't, you don't. And man, if you start having a bickering contest about, I got overlap, it's gonna go from bad to worse, and you're gonna end up real slow and maybe fouled and both disqualified potentially. Way better to just get around the dang mark. And notice I'm looking at Jim. So, okay.
Other videos?
I've learned that
We have a few
lesson,
videos.
Sean. I have learned that lesson.
Yeah, no, everybody relearns this lesson.
But I do that. I get plenty of room now.
So notice, I just talked about mark room. Who's owed mark
There's a
room?
BS flag.
This is the part that gets a little
Except you.
irritating for me, as I try to learn these rules better and better and better, and people are kind of lazy with the language. And that is, they'll say, oh, and it's just common, you'll hear it all the time. And it's not a crime, but they'll say, oh, I got rights. I hate that term. What does that even mean?
Bill of Rights.
Bill of Rights.
There you go. We all
I bring back free speech. Pass no law. So, when you go into a mark rounding situation, there's mark room. These are the two issues. There's mark room, and there's right of way or keep clear. You know, these are the two issues that are always going on. In seminars like this, you'll always see the guy saying, who's the right of way boat here? So let's just go through this. Typical situation. You're over here, you jived over, you have some overlap here, this guy's going, oh, dang it, this guy's got an inside overlap, I did everything I could to shake him, I couldn't, penetrating, you know, Dean, who's the keep clear, who's owed mark room here?
The blue boat's owed
Yes,
mark room.
yes.
But he doesn't have right of way.
Nice. So he's right away and he's happy about that, but he's keep clear. He's keep clear.
He's
So
got mark room. He's
not as happy about that. So he's owed mark room, but it's one of these things. It's like you're invited somewhere, but then you don't own the house. You're still a guest. You know, it's kind of weird. You're kind of tightrope walking here. So this guy has to keep clear of this guy. Why? What rule?
Let's
11.
start
11.
windward leeward, yeah.
Windward leeward. It's good old windward leeward. So this guy's keep clear, but he is owed mark room. So this is a great position to be in. I'd love being blue boat right now. So the red boat doesn't quite give you the room you're owed, and what is your recourse? Allow contact to occur?
No.
Because if that happened, this guy hasn't given you mark room, and there's going to be a protest, and he could, you know, violation 18.2 and maybe get disqualified. But this guy has allowed himself as windward boat to contact a leeward boat. Uh-oh, you're both gone.
But they're contradicting rules in the zone.
What I'm trying to make clear here is, just because you're owed mark room doesn't mean you can, you're the keep clear boat, doesn't mean you can allow contact to occur. If the leeward boat, who's the right-of-way boat, doesn't give you the room you're owed,
Right.
doesn't afford you the privilege of allowing contact to
So
occur.
you gotta bear off and run over the mark.
Maybe, well, if you were gonna try to stuff it in there and I would hit the mark first, that's for sure. So later
Right.
on I can say, hey, I did everything in my power, I hit the mark first and buried it. And then we contacted, and oh boy, and I 14, I tried everything in my power, and whoa, I tried. And, you know, but I guess my point is, when you're the windward boat, you're vulnerable in a lot of ways. You're the keep clear boat. And so, if someone's not giving you the room you're owed, how many times have I said, hail early, hail, yeah. So, hail, you like say, I need more mark room, say their name if you know it. And if they're not looking at you, say their name. That's where these conversations get so aggressive. Because this guy is seeing the nightmare. He's keep clear, so he's kind of like, give me the room, come on! You know, that's why there's that frustration in his voice. It's not like this, where you're overlapped. You went over here for some reason, got clear air. and you're jibed back and forth like this. So here's your transom line. This guy's inside it. So blue boat is over. Does everybody see that pretty clearly?
Well, he's got right away.
Who said that? Yeah, Matt? Dean? Yeah, you're all over this.
Lord, yeah.
So not only is he inside overlap, but he's right of way. So he's got mark room and he's right away.
He's fat and happy.
He's really happy about this.
He can make his own room. I'll just take you high.
Well, yeah, he's right away, so this guy has to keep it there, that's true. And you're sort of touching on another part of this rule. So this is all about inside overlaps, and we talked about some subtleties. 18.1's where it does not apply, opposite taxon being to windward, boat coming in, boat leaving. 18.3 specifically, well that's tacking. 18.4 addresses this situation. If you read it, it kind of almost looks like this guy's burden. It says if you're inside overlap right away boat, and at the mark you have to jibe, the jibing boat shall sail no farther than necessary to pursue proper course. It almost sounds like the blue boat's under this burden. But in fact, and it's not my interpretation, it's the higher authorities of this, it's poorly written. If you're inside overlap and you're right of way, you're entitled to a tactical rounding. You can come in wide and finish tight. You can't go to Timbuktu and finish tight. You can just go wide and finish tight. And that is up to you to determine that. And that's what you want to do. You want to go wide and finish tight, so you have this nice high lane. You want to come in tight and finish low. You want to come in wide and finish tight if you can. And in this case, this inside overlap right-of-way boat triggers Rule 18.4, which I think is called jibing. Jibing at the mark?
You are correct, sir.
Jibing or jibing at the mark?
Jiving.
Okay. So that's the name of the rule. This one's what, tacking?
Jive.
18.3, tacking?
Yeah.
Tacking in the zone.
Tacking in the zone?
It's certainly tack.
So if you're inside overlap, you're right away, and this guy, he's very happy, and he can, and what this guy will tell this guy, and let's say there's a boat over here coming in like this, really common, right? Look at this transom line, which extends to, Mars.
So he just better follow the other two around.
Yes, and so what this guy is really screaming at this guy and hoping this guy hears it. This guy owes these two guys he owes them both mark room, and this guy's owed a tactical, and he wants to come in wide and finish tight, so he better say something about it. And this is another rule a lot of people don't know, but one time I was a cluster of Scots, and there's a J70 coming in here, and everyone on the boat, like a choir, was screaming, "Tactical!" And I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about. And they're going like 100 miles an hour, and we're all kind of semi-planing on a run, and they're like booking. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I do not want. They're reaching, they're going real fast, and they're owed a tactical, and I know it. That was me. So, yeah. So if you're inside overlap, you're right away. You're really double happy. You're owed a tactical rounding. Otherwise, if you're upon penetration, you're the keep clear boat, like we talked about before, this guy owes you the blue boat mark room, you have to do a seaman-like rounding. You have to come in, the red boat owes you just enough to get to the mark and enough to swing your rear end around and get around the mark. You have to come in tight and finish tight, which can be done. And it is done regularly. If you're really good, you'll over trim, slow down, put this guy on your outside, and make him really far out on the low end of things. But my point is, a normal mark rounding that you're afforded is a come in tight, finish tight, in tight, finish tight, seaman-like, unless you're the inside overlap right-of-way boat where you're double happy and then you're entitled to a tactical. And that's a Rule 18.4 situation. You read it, it almost sounds like a bummer, but in fact, if you're that inside overlap right-of-way boat, you're really happy.
Just a really simple question. A port tacker in this whole thing has no rights. Even if they're
These guys are
inside.
both port tack.
Well, I'm saying, in the other situation, you were a port tacker and the other one was starboard. So you, in addition, a port tacker coming in, even if he's
Oh,
inside.
just these two boats?
Just two boats. You got a port tacker coming in, he's inside, he does not have rights.
Correct.
He's not owed room.
You're not even
He
sure
doesn't
they're
have rights,
penetrated
he's not owed
first.
room.
This is This is why I love coming from this side on starboard. Everybody hates that because you have to come in, jibe, trim, and do all that. Just, I say athletically, but just athletically, this is kind of hard to do, wouldn't you agree? Everybody likes to come in over here and they resist going over here and then jibing. But boy, I like coming over here because you have this, you're right away and you're inside overlapped on these boats. So, yeah, this guy is starboard, he's port, so this guy is right away. And he's on mark room, so he's double happy.
But let's say the port tacker was inside him. Bring him inside.
Oh, okay, like this? Maybe?
Yeah, so he's the port. So
He's
port, but he's inside overlap, but he's port tacking, so he doesn't have any rights.
He does not have the right of way, I would agree
And
with
he doesn't-
that.
And because he's on port, he doesn't deserve inside overlap.
Oh, no.
He's inside overlap.
What does the rule say? What does
I
the
don't
rule
really
say?
deserve it
The
if
rule
you
says
have
if
it.
you're inside overlapped at time of penetration, you're
Regardless of
forever
port,
on mark room around that
regardless
mark.
of the tack you're on.
Correct, that's why I started out saying,
I know
kind
you
of
know.
like the neutered boats, remember?
Mhm.
Yeah. But you're right, that could happen. I don't see that typically happening, because this guy, well, it could happen, of course it could. This guy could be sailing by the lead or something like that. I
Well,
don't
you
know why.
usually see it where you got starboard people coming here and a port tacker coming in from the other side and trying to pick his spot. You got a line of boats coming in starboard, put that guy coming in, charging in on a port tack, the blue boat,
Uh-huh.
right? Now, where is he? He's not deserved it. He has no real claim.
He's got nothing, this guy's in trouble. Because his transom line is out here, he owes the whole planet, mark room. And this guy's starboard, he's port, so he's right away, and he's on mark room, because he's inside overlap with pump penetration.
So he's just gonna have to wait.
Yeah, now maybe he's just going faster and can sneak by and everything's kosher, but if they're gonna be close, this guy would be wise to
Head down and make a
just
big
follow
turn.
him around, follow his transom around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this can get gnarly, we've all been there, believe me. So that was driving, back to the 18.3 is tacking. Let's go up to the windward mark. This is common, we've all been there. Again, there's a lot going on here, trying to make the boat go, you got a crew to take care of, and the boats are all over the place, and I don't think anybody does this stuff on purpose. And when you're going upwind, you're looking at the mark, and you're getting really slow, and they're starboard tackers, and your air's bad, and the water's bad, because all the boats are going by, creating these little wakes, and your boat's slowing down, and this is going to be really stressful. But 18.3 addresses tacking in the zone. So the zone is this 3 boat length circle around the mark. It's kind of generally misunderstood, but people say, oh, if you tack in the zone, you have this common. You got no rights. You hear it all the time. Not exactly true at all. It's not that you don't have any rights, you have a lot of limitations on you, specifically through. But the big one is, so when does 18.3 happen? If someone tacks in the zone, when you round marks to this direction, it's usually a port tacker coming in here. This rule 18.3 was to address the guy who fails to get to the right side of the course, comes in at the last second, there's 25 boats over here, this guy slams in here and hoses the first 5 boats, and then boats 6 through 20 round, and then they're all just ready to strangle him. So 18.3 says, if you tack in the zone, you have some issues, and here's what they are. You get some burdens on you, some limits, if you will. Okay. So you've tacked in the zone, check me on this. It says, from here on in, 18.2 doesn't apply. There ain't none of this inside overlap stuff anymore. It ain't in Kansas anymore, is what it's saying. It's saying 18.3 is now in play here, bro. So if you tack in the zone, and the other guy is fetching, definition section says fetching means, here's the starboard lay line. So this is a lay line. So that's a close haul course right there, right? So this guy's gonna get around, right? Is this guy fetching? Fetching means you can get around the mark without changing tack. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't.
If it gets
Maybe it
lifted.
depends on the conditions. It might be 5 to 10 smooth water, and you're cruising along and you just go head to wind and glide forever and get around. If he's close, he probably is fetching, and if you're a port tacker and you're tacking the zone, assume he's fetching, because in the protest room he'll say I was fetching. So this guy's fetching, and a lot of people would say laying, but in fact the term is fetching. So when someone's tacking in the zone and the other guy is fetching, doesn't matter if he's close haul, close reach, beam reach, he's fetching. He could be above this lay line on a reach, coming, he oversailed, big wind shift, whatever, he's coming down. He could be in a pinch fest, just barely getting there, but he's gonna get around, and believe me. So he's fetching, so you might wanna call that a fetch line, I don't know. But there's your lay line, he's somewhere near it, and you're tagging in the zone, and if you're close, trust me, you're tagging in the zone. If you're tagging anywhere near that zone, you're tagging in the zone. And it basically says, you're tagging the zone, he's fetching, 18.2 is not in play, now this inside overlap stuff, because look at the inside overlap, you know, I'm inside overlap, right? This specific rule says, forget all that. Here's what it says. So you've tacked in the zone, I've completed my tack, guess what? He is the keep clear boat. Does everybody see that? He's clear stern, I'm clear ahead. I've acquired the right of way. I initially have given him room to keep clear. It's not like I tacked in front of him and bam, you know, it's all happening. I've lost some speed. He's now coming down on my stern, and that's real common. He's tacking, this guy isn't, he's closing on you. So I've tacked, I've completed my tack. I've acquired the right of way. I gave him initially room to keep clear, and now I'm the right of way boat, so I'm clear ahead. He's overtaking me. Let's just move this up just to make it a little easier on me. And so I'm the right of way boat. So people say, oh, you tacked in the zone, you got no rights. I just demonstrated right there, that's not true. So that's a really sloppy understanding of the rule. It just means you didn't really read the rule book. But the gist of it is true. You tack in the zone, you have some problems. Well, here's what they are. So I'm the right of way boat. Good for me, right? 18.3 says 3 things. And one of them I don't fully understand, so I'm going to gloss over a little bit based on that point. If you cannot force this guy above close haul. So if he's close haul and he's coming, you know, he's got speed because you had to tack and you're building your speed back, and he has to go above close haul, you have violated rule 18.3. That's the common 18.3 violation. I'm the right of way boat because I finished my tack and everything's cool. This guy overtook me, and to avoid collision, had to go above close haul. 18.3, I'm gone. There's not a race committee or a protest committee, and that's the number one reason to get bounced. Let's say this guy was above close haul and his sails were out and they're round. I finished my tack. I'm a little slow. He's really moving well. He overtakes me and he has to go up. I'm the right of way boat. I'm clear head, right? And now we're overlapped. I'm a leeward boat. I'm still the right of way boat. Another reason I'm no rights. Of course I have right of way. Did I force this guy above close haul? No, I just maybe caused him to have to go too close haul. So technically, if everybody's 100% honest, I have not fouled him. What happens is people will come in here on a reach, and you've tacked in the zone, and then they go up to close haul, and they're jib lefts, and they go, oh, you know, and they say protest, and you're done. That's what happens in reality. But if this was me, and I was on a reach, got oversailed for whatever reason, and Jim Kusada